The Allen Lund Company thanks all the hard-working drivers who are moving goods across the country. We can't do it without you.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
Florida's proposed state budget contains $25 million dedicated to paving more truck parking. And it's not the first time the state has stepped up on the issue. I'll talk with Florida Secretary of Transportation, Jared Perdue. An iconic truck stop is celebrating 60 years of serving truck drivers. We speak with OOIDA's Senior Vice President about the past 6 decades and what she believes made the stop successful over the years. And finally, one of the things we talk about a lot is what's going on in our nation's capital and what OOIDA does there. One aspect of that is occasional visits to D.C. by OOIDA Executive Vice President Lewie Pugh. I'll discuss Pugh's latest trip to our nation's capital with Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today. Mark May 14th through the 16th on your calendars. That's when the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance will hold its International Road Check Blitz throughout North America this year. International Road Check is a high-visibility, high-volume commercial motor vehicle inspection and regulatory compliance enforcement initiative that's conducted in Canada, Mexico, and the United States annually. Over 3 days, certified law enforcement personnel will be out in force conducting routine North American Standard Level 1 inspections at weigh and inspection stations, temporary sites, and mobile patrols. Each year, International Road Check places a special emphasis on a category of violations. This year, there will be 2 focus areas: tractor protection systems and alcohol and controlled substance possession. CVSA says the possession and use of controlled substances and alcohol remains a big concern for motor carriers, drivers, and the general public. A computer issue is being blamed for 24 hours of disruptions at several ports of entry last week. Computers on the Mexico side of the Otay Mesa port of entry in California went down last Wednesday morning, and they stayed down until the next morning, snarling commercial traffic. Mexico's National Customs Agency said intermittent issues with the customs operating systems were to blame. Operations were also disrupted at the bridge connecting Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, to the World Trade Bridge in Laredo, Texas, and in El Paso and Far, Texas, as well. We have an update to a story you may remember from last year when a truck driver was attacked by a police dog following a chase in Ohio. The Associated Press reports that the city of Circleville has reached a settlement with Jadarius Rose, the truck driver involved. Records shared with the AP show that the city will pay Rose $225,000 over the dog bites he suffered. Additional records show that the city will also pay the K-9 officer's handler $40,000. Rose's arrest in July near Circleville, Ohio, was caught on police body cameras. The video shows Rose on his knees with his hands in the air when the K-9 officer is released. Rose required medical treatment at the hospital. It came after a police chase on Ohio Route 35 that started because Rose's truck appeared to be missing a mud flap, and he did not stop for an inspection. A father-son co-driving team are facing charges for allegedly manipulating fuel pumps and stealing diesel. In a Facebook post, the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina says Juan Casanova Brito and his son, Carlos Casanova Sanchez, were arrested last week after a tip was called in about fuel being stolen at a 7-Eleven. When deputies arrived, they found the 2 men fueling up their semi and then found out they had previous warrants out for manipulating fuel pumps to increase the flow of fuel, resulting in a larger amount of fuel pumped than was billed. The sheriff's office has been investigating similar fuel thefts in South Carolina and Virginia dating back to November, in which a total of more than 1,500 gallons of fuel had been stolen. The father and son are facing multiple charges, including criminal conspiracy. A truck driver trainer is facing attempted murder charges after allegedly shooting the person he was training at a truck stop in Tennessee. Police in Cleveland, Tennessee say it happened late Friday night at a pilot truck stop. An argument started when John Trell Riley accused his trainee of stealing his cell phone. Riley reportedly fired a single shot from a pistol, hitting his trainee in the chest. The victim was last listed in critical condition. Riley has been arrested and charged with attempted second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. The California Air Resources Board has increased the incentive for the purchase of one specific electric trailer. The point-of-sale incentive value for Range Energy's 53-foot electric trailer is now up to $120,000 per unit. That's up $40,000 from the previous amount. Range Energy says its electric-powered trailers hook up to any diesel-powered truck, doubling fuel mileage while cutting down emissions by 67%. Yokohama Tire has announced size expansions for two of its commercial tires. The company says the 124R, designed for regional pickup and delivery fleets, has 3 new sizes, bringing the total number to 12. The 714R, designed for urban pickup and delivery applications, has 1 new size for a total of 4. Transportation officials in North Carolina are extending the toll road in the Raleigh area another 10 miles. The state DOT says the extension of the Triangle Expressway will ease traffic on local roadways and connect cities like Cary, Clayton, and Holly Springs. The 10-mile extension connects the North Carolina Highway 55 bypass in Apex, North Carolina, to the Interstate 87 interchange in Knightdale. The project will be done in 2 phases. The first is underway and set to be finished this spring, at which time Phase 2 will begin. Just last month, a rate increase went into effect for Quick Pass users traveling the full length of the Triangle Expressway. Vehicles with 4 or more axles pay 4 times the toll rate in North Carolina. Albuquerque just found itself on the top of a list it would rather not be on. A new report from Forbes Advisors says the city has the worst drivers in the United States. 5 key metrics were used to come up with the list. Albuquerque came out on top as the most dangerous city in America to drive in, with high incidents of fatal car accidents, drunk drivers, and distracted drivers. Memphis was number 2, followed by Detroit at number 3. Rounding out the top 5, Tucson, Arizona, and Kansas City, Missouri. Shell Rotella has selected the Texas Motor Speedway in Dallas-Fort Worth as a site for the 42nd Super Rigs Truck Show. The event runs for 3 days starting May 30th. This year's competition includes more than 20 awards for Best Chrome, Best Lights, Best of Show, and more. The Best of Show truck, along with 11 others, will be selected for a spot in the 2025 Super Rigs calendar. There will also be events and entertainment for the whole family. And finally, the Iowa 80 truck stop is celebrating its 60th year in business this year. Delia Moon-Meyer is Senior Vice President for Iowa 80. It was her parents that founded the truck stop back in the mid-60s. Moon-Meyer says the goal was never to be the world's largest, but to serve truck drivers the best they could.
So Iowa 80 truck stop, the world's largest truck stop, has everything we can think of that a truck driver is going to need when they're on the road. And that's how we got to be the world's largest truck stop, just from listening to our customers and being there every day and brainstorming with them. Hey, it'd be nice if we could, have a dog wash. We put in a dog wash. Hey, I like to have a clean truck. There's a truck wash. We also have 9 different restaurants. And the way that happened was we have a 300-seat full-service restaurant. They'll serve you. If you want breakfast at midnight, fine, we'd love to make you breakfast at midnight. And that's open 24 hours. But we also, as things changed in the industry, and there was a lot more time pressure, for lunch, and once their day got started, they really can't stop to have a slow meal. We added the Wendy's, and then we added the Taco Bell and Dairy Queen and Pizza Hut and Blood Beef sandwiches. And Einstein bagels. We just kept adding things that would appeal to them, and no matter how much time they have.
The truck stop serves more than 5,000 people a day. For more on this story, stay tuned for later on in our show. That's Lane Line Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Next, I'll talk with Florida Secretary of Transportation Jared Perdue. Ashley Blackford covers Iowa 80's 60th anniversary, and I'll talk about Lewie Pugh's recent trip to D.C. with Colin Long of OOIDA. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman, your leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Let us help you avoid costly downtime and repairs by visiting capitalreman.com today. Use code OOIDA10 to receive your member benefits.
Stock up on Howe's Diesel Treat, the nation's most trusted anti-gel. And to be safe from the harshest winter conditions, make sure you have Howe's Diesel Lifeline on hand, the fastest-acting gelling rescue product. Available nationwide, Howe's products are designed to keep you rolling through the toughest conditions. Visit howesproducts.com.
Attention professional drivers, are you behind on your tax filings? You owe money? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. You watch the road, we'll keep an eye on the IRS. Call now. 855-976-4291.
Buckling up keeps everyone safe on the roads. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
In the state budget proposed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, $25 million is dedicated to paving more truck parking, and it's not the first time the state has stepped up on the issue. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Reddick. Welcome back to the program. Florida's Truck Parking Improvement Program calls for $200 million to be spent on improving the truck parking situation in the state. The $25 million that the governor has proposed for the upcoming year is the first of several more installments going towards solving that problem. And much of that effort is based on a study commissioned by the state in 2020 that was intended to help identify where the greatest needs are. The person in charge of what's done with that money is Florida's Secretary of Transportation, Jared Perdue. The Secretary spoke with me recently about the state's past efforts, current plans, and the future of truck parking in the state. Well, I wanted to talk about the governor's budget proposal and specifically about the money for truck parking in there. How much in the budget will be committed to the state's truck parking improvement program, and how does that compare with previous year's budget for truck parking?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. First of all, really appreciate this opportunity. I think it goes without saying the trucking industry is absolutely critical to Florida's supply chain. It's an integral part of our transportation system. And, we're currently home to nearly 23 million residents, 137 million visitors. Both of those numbers are growing rapidly. We're growing at nearly 1,000 people per day. But making sure we have a healthy and resilient supply chain is one of the fundamental tenets of transportation investments. As you may be aware, we did a study back in 2020 with regards to truck parking availability and the needs that are out there. That study actually helped us build a strategic vision and plan for where we need to go, and actually identified some pretty critical needs across the state. We have been, as a result of that study, we actually have been implementing a truck parking improvement plan, which is really a new innovative approach to making sure we plan and build the right infrastructure for our trucking industry and for our supply chain. And so, currently, as part of that program, we have over the 5-year work program, we have nearly $200 million program for truck parking improvements. As part of the governor's focus on Florida's future budget this year, he's actually proposing a new innovative program for truck parking infrastructure that would allocate $25 million a year to go to the planning, design, and construction of truck parking infrastructure. So we're really excited about that program. It's obviously going through the legislature right now, but very thankful for Governor DeSantis' leadership. I mean, he really, truly understands the importance of our supply chain and the trucking industry, and is really leading and making those critical investments for truck parking. As part of the study we did, actually, the I-4 corridor was considered one of the most critical areas of need. And just to give you an example, currently I-4 in Central Florida has 36 existing spaces along the corridor. Back in 2020, the existing demand was estimated at 481 spaces, and the demand by 2020 is projected to be nearly 800 spaces. And so, these investments into truck parking infrastructure facilities are going to be really important for Florida's future.
You mentioned the money that's already been put into the truck parking improvement program. Can you give us an idea or maybe just a few examples of the places where that money has been used to create more truck parking?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. So I-4 is a great example for that. So anytime we deliver a project, it starts with planning, public outreach, public engagement, and then making sure we properly select sites for those truck spaces. Can existing facilities be expanded? Do we need new site locations? Where are those site locations going to be appropriate, working with those communities, and based on, the trucking industry and the patterns of the truck drivers and where those trucks are coming from and where they're going. And so we've utilized those investments to really develop that plan. And I'm going to continue to focus on I-4 because it is one of the most critical needs. And so, we basically established what is the need, identified site locations, began taking those site locations through community and public outreach and engagement to get buy-in from the communities, start the environmental clearance processes, begin the design efforts, and also right-of-way acquisition to ultimately prepare for construction of those facilities. And so those are examples of what those investments have been programmed towards and are going towards. And just like I-4, I-95 is a critical facility, I-75, I-10, and so we're currently working through the various phases of identifying those needs and site locations to build out our truck parking network.
I want to go a little bit more broadly about this problem in the state of Florida right now, sir, and ask you about the state of truck parking overall in the state. Basically, is there enough? And if there's a shortage, how bad is that shortage, and what kind of effects is it having overall?
There is. So we know that we have about 10,000 available spaces. Roughly 30% of those are publicly provided and about 70% are private. And so we're really taking a comprehensive approach. Yes, there is a need. Our trucking industry is continuing to grow with our needs in the supply chain. And so there definitely is a need. And we're going through the development of our truck parking improvement plan as we speak, and really building out what that network needs to look like and zooming in on the different regions because the needs for truck parking are going to be different in every region of the state. We estimate statewide there is potentially a need for around 350,000 spaces, and that can look different for every region. But, one of the things that's very important to us here in Florida is making sure that we have a sustainable and resilient supply chain. As many are aware, over the last 3 to 4 years, we've experienced somewhat of a global supply chain crisis. We really, truly believe that in Florida we can be sustainable, resilient, and survive those global crises in a very healthy manner if we plan and build our infrastructure out the right way. And so we've kind of identified that statewide need, and we're zooming into the different regions of the state, like the I-4 corridor, and developing specific plans for each region.
You mentioned earlier the 2020 study on truck parking, and I had read a little bit about that. And you mentioned, of course, the I-4 corridor was identified as a place of particular need. You also mentioned the other interstates in the state, and I'm wondering if that study gave you an indication of what is next after I-4? What is the next area of critical need that the state may look at?
Yes, I think that study provided us with the information we needed to develop a plan. And that was one of the recommendations was, develop a truck parking improvement plan. That's what we've been working on. And, we know we have needs in our South Florida region. We know we have needs in our Southwest Florida region. We know we have needs in our Central Florida region, North Florida. Now, those needs are different in each region, and so that's one of the things that study helped us with was, number one, let's identify, take an inventory of what exists, and then let's begin to dig into what those needs are in each region. And obviously, we zoom in on what the most critical needs are first, and we build out that plan over time. And so we've made significant progress on the I-4 corridor. We actually have 4 new truck parking locations already identified. And in various phases of project development, we actually already have right-of-way funding in our program and are going through right-of-way acquisition for several of those locations. And actually, we were just awarded an INFA grant from USDOT for $180 million for construction of those I-4 truck parking locations. And so, all of the different investments that we're making, the investments that Governor DeSantis has made and the legislature has made have really kind of set us up to be a leader in the nation in terms of delivering this truck parking infrastructure.
You mentioned something earlier that caught my attention. You said that parking runs about 30% public and about 70% private. Some other states have looked at whether to build strictly publicly owned truck parking or engage in some public-private partnerships with the providers or private companies that provide truck parking. Has the state considered which direction that Florida wants to go in that, and what's kind of leading there?
That's actually a great question, Mark. One thing I'll say with Florida DOT, we pride ourselves on taking innovative approaches. And so when we are looking at the challenges we face and developing potential solutions, we really like to keep all of our tools in a toolbox, keep everything on the table, and consider all the potential solutions that could be available. And so, we're working through the regional needs, what those look like, and what is most appropriate for every location. Is it public? Is it private? Is it some sort of P3 model? And so we have these tools in our toolbox, and we're working through those as we develop the needs and develop what those projects look like. For the I-4 corridor specifically, since that project is a lot farther along, I can tell you most of those spaces are going to be publicly provided as public infrastructure.
Do you have an idea of specifically along I-4 where those parking spaces will be built?
Currently, we have 2 sites located in Volusia County, 1 site in Seminole County, 1 site in Osceola County. Those are the ones that are farthest along in development. We're also looking at a potential site in Orange County as well that would serve the I-4 corridor.
Okay. Do you have a timeline of when those and other truck parking projects may be built?
So we have various phases of these projects in our work program, specifically with I-4, which is the one, again, that is progressing very quickly. We did recently receive the announcement of the Infra Grant award of $180 million. And so, the plan is over the next 2 to 3 years to start moving into construction for those truck parking locations.
Well, that's all I had, Secretary Pugh. Is there anything else that you want to add, or maybe I didn't ask about that you think I should have?
No, Mark, I just really appreciate the opportunity. Again, the truck parking industry is very important to us here in the state of Florida, and I think it's really innovative and exciting that we're beginning to make a lot of progress on those truck parking needs. It's going to have a huge impact on our local communities. It's going to have a huge impact on safety. Making sure these truck drivers have safe places to pull over and rest when they need to rest is just going to be paramount for the safety of our transportation system. So we're really excited about the future.
Fantastic. Secretary Pugh, thank you very much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
That was Florida Secretary of Transportation Jared Perdue talking about efforts in that state to expand truck parking. You can keep up to date on the latest news regarding truck parking in Florida and elsewhere at our website, landline.media, and in the pages of Landline magazine, as well as on our program. For Landline Now, I'm Mark Reddick. Some notices we wanted to remind you about. The reward for information leading to finding a missing Iowa truck driver is now $25,000. 53-year-old David Schultz has been missing since before Thanksgiving. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Sac County Sheriff's Office at 712-662-7127. We also have a few recall notices to tell you about. Daimler is recalling certain 2024 and 25 Western Star 49X and 2025 Freightliner Cascadia vehicles. The electronic stability control software has incorrect axle spacing parameters. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed March 31st. PACCAR is recalling certain 2024 and 25 Kenworth and Peterbilt trucks. In a number of different models, the steering gear may have been assembled incorrectly. This could potentially affect more than 47,000 trucks. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed on March 25th. And PACCAR is also recalling some Peterbilt 389, 520, 567, and Kenworth T880 trucks. There may be a problem that prevented the proper installation of the wheel end hub assemblies. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the program. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now. What's dubbed as the world's largest truck stop is celebrating a milestone this year. Iowa 80 is marking its 60th year serving truck drivers. Delia Moon-Meyer joins me now. She is the Senior Vice President for Iowa 80. Delia, this is a big year for the truck stop. Starting off, can you describe what Iowa 80 is like for those who have never visited the truck stop in Walcott, Iowa?
You bet. So Iowa 80 truck stop, the world's largest truck stop, has everything we can think of that a truck driver is going to need when they're on the road. And that's how we got to be the world's largest truck stop, just from listening to our customers and being there every day and brainstorming with them. Hey, it'd be nice if we could, have a dog wash. We put in a dog wash. Hey, I like to have a clean truck. There's a truck wash. We also have 9 different restaurants. And the way that happened was we have a 300-seat full-service restaurant. They'll serve you, if you want breakfast at midnight, fine, we'd love to make you breakfast at midnight. And that's open 24 hours. But we also, as things changed in the industry and there was a lot more time pressure, for lunch, and once their day got started, they really can't stop to have a slow meal. We added the Wendy's, and then we added the Taco Bell and Dairy Queen and Pizza Hut and Blood Beef sandwiches and Einstein bagels. We just kept adding things that would appeal to them, and no matter how much time they have. And then a few years ago, we put on a big C-store, and we started making hard-boiled eggs, and we're making sandwiches and soup and different things that they could buy, truckers could buy, and put in their refrigerators and eat while they're on the road. If they're at a rest area, or even if they can eat a sandwich while they're still driving. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm assuming it is. And, just trying to cater to what do you need, because they're on the road and they can't just go home and, make their lunch. So it's really, and then, of course, truck parking. We just keep adding truck parking whenever we can, and we're up to 900 spots now. So when we start seeing one of our locations fill, at night, then we start working on how can we add more truck parking. And so it's really all those responses to our customers that got us to where we are today.
And yeah, that was one of the things when I read the press release, that's, really how things got started and how it grew. How important is that to, back then and even today, to communicate with truck drivers, the ones that are on the roads and obviously the ones that know what they need? How important is that?
I think it's always important to be communicating with your customers. And it's harder and it's easier today. And if you think about it, there weren't as many choices, so it was easier to communicate with the truckers and your customers. And you had, basically a billboard, and then they would come in and you would talk to them. Now it's a lot of social media. It's a lot of, podcasts and radio, and there's a lot of different ways to communicate with them. But it's not as segmented as it used to be. It's not, but it's fun, and there's more opportunities.
What are some of the other unique things that Iowa 80 offers that a lot of truck stops don't?
I think that you can find similar things in a lot of different truck stops. What we try and do is make sure that ours is better. You'll find nicer gifts at the truck stop. You'll find nicer cards if it's your wife's birthday or your husband's birthday and you're on the road and you got to find something. I think that you'll find more stock, and we try and have everything you could possibly want. If you have just hit a deer and you need a bumper, we want to have a bumper in stock that'll work for you. So that's what we're always working on. But what do we have that they don't? Again, I think it's more of everything. So there's always room for you. And I know truck parking is a big deal for drivers, and we've always got available spots. And that's my number one goal, is that nobody gets turned away from Iowa 80.
How have you seen traffic grow over the years, especially with people passing through? I mean, Iowa 80 has become almost a tourist destination for some.
You know, in the same way that truckers do. And for example, in our mission statement, we'll make trucker satisfaction our number one goal. And, you know, a few years ago, there was a lot of pressure on us, and, you know, every once in a while now still, and people are like, you know, they don't like that we're the world's largest truck stop, and they want us to be a travel center or, you know, some other thing. But we have been very careful and deliberate to always say truck stop, because that's our number one customer. That's our number one goal. But as for all the car traffic, you know, that helps the world go round. To run a place like that, you need a lot of customers every day. And, you know, in the end, we all have the same needs. We all need to run to the restroom. We all want something quick to eat that's good. And we all want to feel safe and find a place to park with no hassles. And that's what we specialize in.
Can you kind of talk to me how Iowa 80 got started?
So my parents came here in 1965. My dad had worked for Standard Oil and actually built the truck stop and got it opened up. And he was like a district manager, so he would stop in every week and see how they were doing. And the couple that he had put in charge of it were not doing very well. And so it became available, and my parents sold everything they had, their house and whatever they could in Kansas City, and moved up to Walcott to take it over. So it was a very small then. We had, less than 20 seats in the cafe, one truck bay, and 3 fuel islands, diesel fuel islands, and I think 2 gas islands. And the whole thing was on, maybe developed about 4 acres, and there was probably 10 acres with the piece. And they leased it from Amoco or Standard Oil until 1984. So the first 20 years, it was leased, and they didn't own it. And they built all around it. They built another fuel center and a truckomat and a new tire shop and the Cascale. All of that was not part of the original plot. And then in 1984, on their 20th anniversary, they were able to buy it. And once they bought it, they started adding on to the main building. And they, closed in the 2 shop bays, and they put in private showers. That was the thing. The new thing in the industry was private shower rooms. And they added diesel fuel islands. And they'd added diesel fuel islands over the years. And that's just really what got the traction when they finally owned the piece where the restaurant was. But they were always adding, and, they were, doing things on a small scale, adding things on a small scale. I know that we found in my mom's things after she passed away, the corporate books that we're talking about, they got a loan for $1,000, and they bought a 8-year-old wrecker, and they started doing wrecker calls. And so the process of getting to be the world's largest truck stop has been constant for 60 years. And, it has grown exponentially. But in the beginning, those major improvements, they're laughable now. We're talking about $1,000, and we're talking about, it was just, but kind of a miracle that it all worked out. And, 60 years is a long time. There's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows.
Did your parents set out with the goal of becoming the world's largest truck stop, or did they just continue adding things to serve the truck drivers?
I don't think there was any thought in their mind of being the world's largest truck stop. They were trying to, raise a family and support their family and run a business and not go broke. I would say that was their main goal. And, it took us 30 years to get to the world's largest truck stop theme and really be talking about marketing something other than fuel and dinner and good food.
I was curious, when did the title of the world's largest truck stop come?
You bet. So when I was in high school in the 80s, we were the world's largest Amoco, and we had that on our billboards. And customers kept coming in and they'd say, I want a postcard that says world's largest truck stop. And I would say, we're the world's largest Amoco. But they could not, in their mind, they were like, yeah, that's what I said. And so after I graduated from college, then we just really said, this is a thing. People want something that says world's largest truck stop on it. And then we looked around, and we actually went to a couple places that we had heard were really big. And we actually built some additions and bought some extra land and intentionally went for the world's largest truck stop title. And really nobody's behind us except our other location. So anyway, that's how we did that. It just, over the years. And again, customers are telling us, this is what's cool about you. And I just emphasized it.
What, this year with the 60th, what are some things that are planned to celebrate this milestone?
Great question. To celebrate our 60th anniversary, we've really been thinking about it. We're going to do lots of little things and one big thing in particular. We're going to do a $60,000 giveaway. And so between April and September, customers will get a code on their receipt, no matter where they buy something from us, either the restaurant or the shop or fuel or, whatever. They'll have a code and they can sign up online to win. And it will be $50,000 to a CDL driver and $10,000 to a car traffic. Anyway, I think that'll be a huge way to celebrate. So that's our main thing. But we'll also have an incredible cake at the Walcott Truckers Jamboree. We're going to have some special bands. And we're writing a book for our 60th history. And we are, we'll do some special fireworks. And we're still brainstorming about some fun stuff to do to celebrate 60 years. But if you have any ideas, we're open.
When you look ahead, where do you see Iowa 80 in the next, say, 10, 20, 60 years?
I think for Iowa 80 in our future, I think our culture, our people, I just can't say enough about our employees and how dedicated they are to serving truckers and the traveling public. And I really think there is a spot for us in the world. And I believe that we will continue to work hard and continue to invest and earn everybody's business every day. And I think that there's going to be a million changes coming in the future. We've all heard about driverless trucks or electric trucks or, just everything that's coming our way. But this is not unlike the last 60 years either. There's always constant change. For example, in the last 20 years, look at DEF. And people were at first, no, I'm just going to sell the 5-gallon jugs of it. And now, there's pumps at every truck stop. If you're going to still be a truck stop, you had to invest in it. And so I think that the one thing about Iowa 80 is we look at things and we say, you know what, DEF is here to stay. This is not some fad. And we invested immediately in it. So our customers were not having to, dump out jugs, and they were able to get it when they were fueling. And I believe that spirit, and certainly as long as I'm there, I'm second generation, and we do have a third generation that's working there now. My brother has a son, and I've got a daughter that's working there. And, everybody else, I believe we've got at least another 60 years in us, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
That was Delia Moon-Meyer talking about Iowa 80 celebrating its 60th anniversary. For more information, you can visit iowa80truckstop.com or stop in if you're traveling along I-80 at exit 284. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget miss accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. One of the things we talk about a lot here on the program is what's going on in our nation's capital, including often what OOIDA is doing about it from the association's Washington, D.C. office. But another aspect of that effort is occasional visits from OOIDA Executive Vice President Lewie Pugh, who heads to D.C. now and again to talk with federal officials in the administration and Congress about trucking issues. Here to discuss Lewie's latest visit to our nation's capital and what issues were covered is Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, glad to have you here. Let's kind of start off with this. I know that a lot of this visit involved members of Congress. Tell us a little bit about the people in Congress that Lewie did meet with.
Well, there's usually two avenues we take when Lewie's in town. One is we check in with our champions, which we certainly did last week. We had visits with Mike Bost's team in Washington. We sat down with Congressman Brian Babin, who, if folks don't recall, was leading the effort to repeal or delay implementation of the ELD mandate a few years ago and has remained a great leader on trucking issues and a great friend to OOIDA ever since. We sat down with Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, the Republican who is leading the Got Truckers Act, which would provide employee drivers overtime pay. We talked to him about how we've had a little bit of difficulty getting other Republicans on board, but I think we kind of motivated him to make the claim and make the statement that, Republicans right now are looking out for blue-collar workers. They're trying to help working-class Americans improve their standing, and the way to do that is to ensure they're paid for all the time they spend working. And then we also sat down with Congressman Josh Burkeen of Oklahoma. He's kind of a new champion, actually. In this Congress, he has really grabbed the speed limiter issue by the horns. He's leading legislation in the House that would, I almost said repeal, that would prevent, FMCSA from moving forward with their speed limiter mandate. So we're checking in with our champions, making sure things are moving in the right direction as far as building support for those important bills. And then we're talking to them about, some of these classic issues that we always discuss: truck parking, broker transparency, restroom access. We also had a sit down with Congressman Troy Nehls of Texas, who I think a lot of people became more familiar with more recently when he was at a hearing on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and waving Landline magazine to the administrator of FMCSA and NHTSA, telling them they need to read it more closely. I think he's become a new strong champion for us on issues like restroom access. So we're trying to build up support for those bills by talking to folks who aren't currently co-sponsoring the legislation, but we also talk to the champions and make sure they're energized and motivated to help us generate more support, so hopefully these bills get passed.
Let's talk about some of the bills involved here. And
sure.
I want to start with truck parking. That's kind of a big topic right now. I wonder if you could tell us about the bill in Congress regarding truck parking and kind of what these various members of Congress are saying about it.
Sure. Lewie's reminding folks, just because the bill got through the T&I committee with overwhelming bipartisan support doesn't mean our work is done. We're certainly eager to see that bill reach the House floor. I think if we're being honest, that's getting more and more difficult as we get closer to Election Day and some of these big ticket issues start to crowd everything else out. But, we thank members of Congress for their support on truck parking, but we remind them the work is not done. We need this to pass the House and over in the Senate. I mean, we're still talking about gathering support for the bill. It hasn't moved through the Senate Committee of Jurisdiction. We're trying to make that happen by bringing on supporters, co-sponsors to demonstrate to Senate leadership that there's interest in passing this. But we still have a lot of work to do in both chambers to get truck parking done. But, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. While we're advocating for truck parking, we're still pushing for other things like preventing speed limiters, improving driver compensation, restroom access for all drivers, and the list goes on and on and on.
One issue you mentioned just a moment ago that we really haven't talked about in terms of Congress, which is broker transparency. Talk a little bit about that in Congress right now. Is there an effort underway in Congress? Are members of Congress aware of the issue? What's going on there on Capitol Hill?
They're becoming more and more aware of the larger issue of fraud in the motor carrier and broker industry. And it's being done by, frankly, motor carriers and brokers. I mean, not very respectful ones. They're fraudsters. But I think a lot of folks on Capitol Hill are learning more about this as truckers and brokers, frankly, are sharing their concerns. We are working, we are working closely with TIA, who represents brokers and other trucking industry organizations, to try and come up with some sort of unified approach, whether it be legislative or regulatory, to address these issues. And we certainly talk about that with lawmakers. But independently of that group, OOIDA has been pushing for broker transparency for years now. And that's kind of firmly over at FMCSA, where they're unfortunately spinning their wheels a little bit on ensuring broker transparency. But it's certainly a part of the conversation whenever broker and fraud issues come up with lawmakers. And potentially they'll have some interest in this issue down the road. But I think right now we're focusing on advancing what we've already petitioned the agency to do, but then working within the industry and with our other stakeholders within the industry to develop some legislative proposals that will help move things in the right direction for both truckers and brokers who are being scammed by fraud.
I want to talk a little bit about the reaction from members of Congress. Obviously, you've already been talking about members of Congress and their staffs about these issues, but Lewie's presence is kind of an additional factor in there. When he did talk with these members of Congress, what were some of the reactions on some of these specific issues?
I mean, I think it's similar to when folks within OOIDA or out in the trucking industry talk to Lewie. They enjoy it from the moment he starts. I mean, Lewie is a great advocate for trucking because he looks the part, he speaks the part. He's got 25 years of experience. There's not really an issue he isn't comfortable talking about in trucking, and I think that resonates with staff and with members of Congress. In fact, we often talk to members of Congress who have CDLs, and it's interesting when they start talking about their trucking experience, and you're kind of like, I think they're trying to impress Lewie right now. And it's true, but it leads to great outcomes because I think people realize Lewie's the real McCoy. And when he's sharing insights, it's the insight of the truckers that are out there making their living on the road every day. And I think it really adds a compelling element to the arguments we make day in and day out on Capitol Hill as lobbyists, to have someone come in who looks and sounds the part and tell them what we've been saying, but giving them that much more kind of boots on the ground perspective. And this is why we encourage our members to pick up the phone or get on email and develop relationships with staff and members of Congress, because they really do want to hear from you and they really do take your experience to heart, and it helps shape the way they approach trucking issues on Capitol Hill.
I know that the primary focus of this visit for Lewie was Congress and these specific members that he met with, but often when he goes to D.C., he also meets with folks from the USDOT or FMCSA. Did he have a chance to meet with them on this trip?
This trip was primarily focused on the legislative side of things because, we're getting into crunch time as far as the election crowding out all the issues on Capitol Hill, and we still have some big ticket items to get through. Like I said, truck parking parking. We're still waiting for that to reach the House floor. We're waiting for other bills to start moving through House and Senate committees. So we were really focusing on Capitol Hill this time around. But you're right. I mean, usually we split his time between not only the legislative and regulatory side, but also press. He also talks to a lot of journalists when he's in town, and we're gonna have him back in March, and we're gonna fill his schedule with all three, I think, because he's so effective when he comes to town. Because just like I said, staffers love to talk to a trucker about trucking issues. So do journalists, and it really helps get our message out not only on Capitol Hill but through the industry and through the general public.
Okay. Well, Colin, fascinating stuff, but we are out of time. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I've been talking with Colin Long of OOIDA. That's our program for today. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome, and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.